Welcome to Your Creative Midlife. I'm Betsy Bush. Are you ready to take up something new, a paintbrush, an instrument, a camera, looking to explore the creative side of life, but not sure how to start or what to expect? My guests were where you are right now, and they're here to share their experience and give great advice. My guest is Lela Goldstein. After a long career in corporate communications in the cable television industry, Leela took up her scissors and has become an incredible collage artist. If you're not sure what that is, stay with us because we're going to look at the range of collage images Leela has made. She's had work included in shows and has one published as a book cover. Lela Goldstein, thank you so much for being my guest today on Your Creative Midlife. You've been a previous guest on my first podcast, which was called The Latest Version, when we talked about your career from your transition from your career as a communications executive in the cable television industry to being a collage artist. And I think we all picked up things while we were trying new things during COVID. And my first podcast was one of those. And maybe that's when you started collage.
A little bit before, but
okay,
yes.
A little bit before. But one of the great things about what you've been doing is you've kept at it and you're continuing your collage journey. And I've learned so much watching you as you've posted new artwork and that sort of thing. And I want to hear all about what it was like starting out as a collage artist and what does your journey say to people who are looking at the artwork that you're doing and others and thinking, I want to give that a try?
Well, I think this goes way back to when I was a kid. I was very interested in paper and images and colors and patterns. And so I did a collage when I was 9 years old that I entered into a school art contest, and I actually got second place. And it was a lot of different colored tissue paper, and it was an abstract, as they would say. But I always enjoyed doing that, and I can't draw very well. So I always was fascinated by putting images and putting them on the top of each other, almost like doing a jigsaw puzzle. So that, I think, was ingrained in me from early on. And as you know, Betsy, I also was a collector of postcards from the time I was very young. And so I had this, giant collection. I have this giant collection of postcards, picture postcards. Some of them are very old. Some of them are more modern. So it's always been something that's been in my heart for a long time. And then, of course, going to film school, that kind of fed that whole interest. And then my career took over, and I basically stopped doing any of it for, almost 40 years.
Well, which is true for so many people who had artistic interests and hobbies and things they enjoyed as kids or teens. And, when real life takes over, a lot of us set those things aside.
Right. And by the way, you raise a family too.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And maybe you're encouraging your kids to, get involved in the arts and that sort of thing. But it's artistic endeavors, passions, pursuits are harder when you're raising a family, pursuing a career, all those other things. And then you picked this up or you started. What made you think about collage? How did you start on that thing specifically?
Well, I was very interested in doing something creative. And I knew that, my time was coming up to think about retirement. I was still doing some work, and I still do a little bit of project work, which I love doing. But I really wanted to focus more as I moved into the retirement mode on something creative, and I felt that collage was really a way to express myself creatively. It doesn't take a lot of technology. You know, if you have scissors and paper and glue and something to put on a substrate, something to put your images on, that's really all you need. And so I thought, well, I'll just play around a little bit. And so I started playing around and it became an obsession, basically.
Wow.
I'm now in, um, uh, paper is everything to me now. I'm obsessed with paper and images and patterns and um, just putting them together and looking at them and taking a piece of paper and seeing something on it, and from there trying to create what is essentially a story. Sometimes it's just abstract, but other times it's really more. Hopefully, it has some sort of message or image that derive your own story from.
Did you meet up with other collage artists? Was there a class you took? How
Well,
did you those first little steps, those first baby steps? Where did
those
that
first
happen?
baby steps, I actually started. I did my first collage in 2017, and I did it all on my own. And then I looked up collage on Google, and I noticed there was a magazine called Collage, Kolaj, Collage magazine. So I subscribed to that, and man, all of these people are so talented, and
Wow.
um, I didn't feel I didn't feel like I was not worthy. I felt like I was inspired, right? And so I couldn't do what they did, and there was a lot what we call in the collage world fussy cutting, which is very specific, very intricate cutting of paper and images. So I wanted to learn that. And so I started to do this a lot on my own. I, ordered some books and looked at some image transfer workshop, type videos and learned a lot. And then when we moved to Scottsdale in 2017, and I had more time on my hands to do more, I went to a couple of classes and I really started to learn different techniques. And so that really helped me a lot. And then a few years later, I joined what I consider is like the best community of collage artists. It's called Collage Lab, and it's run by an artist named Kelly Schaub out of Rockport, Texas. And it's all online. And she literally has all over the world, collage artists from all over the world. And we all get together on Zoom for workshops, for kind of keeping up with each other's work, sharing. We have a website. There's a website that we can go to where we share our work. We can critique each other's work and encourage each other. Whenever anybody has a show that they're doing or a gallery that they're exhibiting in, we're there to cheer them on. Kelly has a YouTube channel.
Oh, great.
There's a lot of stuff on there that's for free. So if anybody wanted to start to kind of get a little bit of introduction to different techniques and what's out there, Kelly's YouTube channel it's called Collage Lab, and it's a great starting point.
Oh, that's amazing. So, you know what? We have some of your images that we can look at, and I'd love to have you kind of talk about, uh, what, love to have you talk about how these how you put them together or what they mean? These are just so intriguing.
Prize in Upstate New York was actually a commission
Oh,
of a friend of mine who was my next door neighbor when I was a child in Rochester, New York.
oh,
And her husband took this picture, and she wanted me to do a collage of this picture of their, I guess it's their front area, their front yard. And I decided to, I used all paper. So everything there is, first I had to paint with acrylic paint, just loosely paint the photo, and I did a photo transfer. And
oh,
then I filled that with different papers. A lot of those papers I hand painted, not all of them, but some of them are from like scrapbook paper, and they have the right color, but like different patterns and things like that. And yeah, and so she liked it,
oh, it is
and
gorgeous.
it hangs in her living room right now.
Oh,
So that's
it's
pretty cool.
beautiful. It really does seem to blur the line between collage and painting, to my mind, and just the color of the sky that you get there with all the different pieces of different colored paper is really wonderful. And I even think I see some animals in here. Was that intentional?
You can see them.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
think I
didn't
see a
see.
dog in the purple, in
I
the little,
Yeah,
yeah, and
that very
maybe
possibly.
something else in a tree. It looks like two eyes, but this is art, right? Everyone has their own interpretation. Anyway, I think that is
Exactly,
gorgeous.
exactly.
You have this series of greetings from the East Bloc.
Greetings from the Eastern Bloc. Yes.
Yeah.
There are luggage labels from I think it's like the late 50s, early 60s. And I had a bunch of them. I got them at this, of course, paper fair, like a swap meet for paper. And they are from the communist countries from the late 50s, early 60s of Eastern Europe. So I took three of them and pulled the color palettes from them, and I decided to use my scrap pile. I mean, literally small cuttings, because when you're a collage artist, you tend to keep even the smallest little cuts of paper or tears of paper because they'll come in handy someday, right?
Sure.
So I went to my pile of scraps and pulled out the different colors and decided to use that as the backdrop for showcasing these kind of cool looking hotel stickers for your luggage that they
Oh,
used to do.
totally cool. And there are a couple things. I mean, one is where do you get your materials? And the idea of a paper swap sounds like so much fun. How does that happen? Or where do you
Well,
go for that?
if you're addicted to paper like I am, you go to book fairs, you go to like those antique malls where they have old magazines
Sure.
and
Yeah.
old ca cards. You can get old greeting cards. You can get actually old receipts from, stores, banknotes.
Wow.
There's a whole group of people who have mail art. They do mail art, and they pick up old letters and stamps, postage stamps, which I also have a bunch of. Yeah, you can get them mainly at flea markets and places like that.
Interesting.
I also have a lot of antique books, and I've got a lot of Dick and Jane primer books from the readers from the late 50s, early 60s. I even have one from the 30s. It's like a
Wow.
math book from the 30s with these incredible illustrations. Children's books. Gosh, I mean, it just goes on and on. And then, of course, modern magazines as well for a lot of graphic lettering.
Mm-hmm.
That if you want to have like different fonts of letters, you can pull those out of pretty much anywhere. And sometimes I can paint on those papers,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're black and white. If it's like I have this page, several pages from a Russian Chinese, I think it's Chinese dictionary. So there's
Oh,
Russian and Chinese. And so you can paint, and it's very kind of old, cream colored, antique kind of paper.
mm-hmm.
And you can just paint really bright colors or muted colors or whatever on top of that. You can use stamps, rubber stamps, and you can use stencils.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need really expensive paint. You can just use basic craft paint or acrylic. Anything and everything. Things in your kitchen can be used. Of course, you can't then use them again in the kitchen, but you can take them from the kitchen, like, netting from a bag of lemons or something like that, and use that for texture.
Wow.
You can use that actual plastic on your collage if you'd like, and you get into maybe some more 3D type or more textural
Mm-hmm.
collage. A lot of people do that.
It
Uh,
really
the
sounds like
poss-
there are no rules,
there are no
right?
rules, and the possibilities are endless. You can set up your own rules if you want.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that I don't like to call them rules, but guidelines that you want to follow, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are times when you just want to play and
Oh,
see what happens.
this sounds like the idea that you can use, kind of, you don't have to go out and buy a lot of supplies. You can just use the stuff around you. Some old magazines and old books that you'd find, at a flea market, or even my town has a take it or leave it shed, and people
Great.
leave old books there. They leave old magazines, things they think, it's too good to throw away. But it's like, yeah, you're also salvaging something that might have gone to landfill. Oh, yeah.
Thrift stores are great, that they have a lot of. I know that Kelly Schaub loves to pick up game pieces from.
Mm.
She's got like a big twister dial, one of those dials for
Yep.
twister
Yep.
in her studio, and she said someday she's going to use that for something, because she doesn't know what yet. But Scrabble tiles,
Yep.
bingo cards.
Yep.
It really is endless. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Since we're talking about images that you found at a flea market or old magazines, let's look at smoking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I love a lot of your work draws on these advertising images of, women, kind of the idealized woman or the idealized housewife, or images here, it's images of women having fun while they're smoking their Lucky Strikes, or their Camels
Yeah.
or something. And gee, isn't
Uh,
it fun to smoke,
yes. Well, I can't, I probably am not telling anything anybody doesn't know already, but if you look at old magazines, there's a ton of advertising for cigarettes. I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And even ones that say, you know, doctors recommend, XYZ brand cigarettes
Yeah.
for that, flavor and taste or whatever. And so I'm also very interested in, as you said, Betsy, idealized images of women back then. With the career women, when there are some, the housewife, the nurse. There's always kind of like these idealized versions of womanhood in these magazines, and so I thought, well, as I said, everybody smoked back then, it seemed, and so I looked for images of women smoking, and I looked through a bunch of magazines, and then I decided, when I put them together, I loved the skater. I thought that she was probably the focal point of the piece, because she was skating and smoking at the same time. And then I just decided to add a few smoke rings. And and the background I chose was just some magazine paper, and some book paper, just torn up, and then I put a little gesso, which is the kind of the white paint, just to kind of dull it a little bit so that it doesn't there isn't too much contrast, uh, and just laid it on there, and I really I get a smile when I see that piece, and it's sold to somebody, so
Oh,
yeah.
congratulations. That's nice.
Yeah, I don't usually like push my, selling my stuff, but hey, when it comes up, it's nice.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that someone likes it enough to pay you for it and take it home. That's great. I think we need to kind of stop with this interesting the collage that turned into a book cover, which you're calling the Divine Hellenic.
Right. Now, this is the one
Yeah.
that I was, and it came from, this is the piece that I created during a residency in New Orleans. Collage magazine, actually, they have an institute called the Kolaj Institute, had a residency in New Orleans that was called Magic in the Modern World. It was a way of connecting your collage practice to what you determine as what's magic in your life,
Oh.
alongside learning more about magic in New Orleans, which of course is kind of like, the center of a lot of practices, including voodoo.
Yeah.
And then there's the voodoo that is the tourist voodoo, and then there's the real voodoo, and the people who are priests and priestesses, and they call upon their ancestors,
Wow.
and create incredible art, and they had me. It has a lot of meaning, and there's a lot of different things that we did a tour of New Orleans. We did a tour of the New Orleans Art Museum and the Voodoo Museum there, and heard stories about people who, the enslaved people who came to New Orleans and created a whole culture, right?
Sure.
So with that backdrop, we were given a few days to create our own collages, and there were about 25 people total, I guess 12 in one cohort, and then there was another cohort after ours. This was in 2023. And a book came out of it. The Ric Kasini Kadour, who runs the Collage Institute, wrote a book based on a lot of his studies of magic and how it relates to collage. And we exhibited our work at Collage Fest, which is an annual festival of collage artists. It's almost like I guess you'd call it a convention, which happens in New Orleans at the end of June every year. So last June, these pieces were displayed, this magic in the modern world. And Rick wrote a book, and he selected my collage as the cover. It's called the Divine Hellenic. And again, I certainly don't want to, take anybody else's culture and, turn it into my view of magic. I wanted to really take it from my own background. And so I decided to focus on my Greek heritage. So the piece is basically a lot about, how I grew up. There's the Greek alphabet. I went to Greek school, learned the Greek alphabet and a few words and how to read Greek, even though I can't really understand necessarily what I'm reading. So you have the Greek
The little,
alphabet in there.
sure.
You've got the I which is the mati, the blue and black and white. They're kind of talismans for, they can either be, to ward off evil, or to bring you luck. There's also Saint Agnes in the middle there, and the girl who's kind of looking at Saint Agnes. Saint Agnes is the patron saint of virgins.
Oh,
And so, my parents would always, when I went to church and everything when I was little, they always wanted me to be a good girl, right? I mean, that was always kind of the, with your little gloves and your little Mary Jane shoes and your anklets, and that whole era of the early '60s where you dressed up even when you went on an airplane ride.
sure. I remember.
We all remember that, and the Easter hats and that type of thing. So I kind of put her in there because I thought that was kind of a nod to that whole time in my life.
It's intriguing, and I think a lot of people it's open to a lot of interpretations, I think, from the viewer. And I appreciate hearing everything you had. It's just something that's intriguing. It's like what's really going on there is really something that people can bring their own story to. So I think
That's what I
really
try to do all the time. I try not to, and I think a lot of collage artists do that as well. Collage is it can be, it can be political, it can be fanciful, it can be disturbing. It's also surreal in many ways. And so you're not, interpreting necessarily like I did with the upstate New York, which is essentially a landscape, right? You can do that, but you can also do things that are a little bit more open to interpretation. And I really enjoy that about collage, is that really when you sit down and do a piece, a lot of times, at least for me, I don't really know how it's gonna turn out until the pieces all start to come together. And I create my own kind of scenario for what I think is happening. But somebody else, almost always somebody else will pull something else out of it and say, I think I see this. And then you look at it and you go, yeah, I didn't mean to do it, but I guess that fits, right?
Just to wrap up, for someone who's been intrigued by this conversation, is like, yeah, I want to give this a try. What are some easy ways to get into collage?
Well, I think, as I said, first and foremost, I would recommend people going to the YouTube Collage Lab channel. And there are a lot of videos on YouTube, not just there, but if you just, I guess, do a search on collage techniques, or if you're on Instagram, maybe, just hashtag collage art or collage artists on Instagram. And you can get a good idea if you're not really sure what collage is, or how you might be able to join in the fun. You can get a lot of inspiration and just get a sense of how different certain people's work is. I follow a lot of people on Instagram, a lot of collage artists that I feel like I get to know their styles and their techniques, and if nothing else, it makes me feel good to just look at my feed and see how many creative, wonderful art people there are out there.
Lela Goldstein, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation, and go out and cut some paper and glue it to a substrate.
You betcha.
New
Yes.
word, right? Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Lela.
Thank you,
Great,
Betsy.
great. Take care now. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. You can see episodes on our website, yourcreativemidlife.com, and read more about me and my guests. And if you like us, please subscribe or follow, and give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. I'm Betsy Bush. Thanks for being here.